Hey y'all, it's Crystal. Thanks so much for coming by today. It's that time of the week for me where we're just going to talk about my reading for this past week and what else all I got into. So let's dive right in because I've got a lot to talk about. I don't want this to be too long. So we're going to start up with things I finished, of course, starting with Childgrave by Ken Greenhall. Woo, I liked this one. Yeah, I really liked this one. But it's not going to be for everyone, I will say. Essentially, we're following a man and his young daughter. The mother has passed away, but he's like this photographer in New York City, and he soon starts taking some photographs and maybe capturing ghosts. And are these ghosts linked to this woman that he has recently met and fallen head over heels, obsessively in love with? And then we find out about this woman and her connection to this little town called Childgrave, which is basically in kind of like upstate New York. It's a little community where they live pretty much just to themselves. There's no electricity. They're very religious, things like that. What could go wrong, right? So we follow this man, and like I say, he just falls deep into this obsession with this woman, and then he is trying to find out what the heck goes on in Childgrave, as we, of course, then find out what the heck goes on in Childgrave. And, whoa. Yeah. This was really good. But like I said, I think Ken Greenhall's writing, is, you see, there's something you like, or maybe you don't. Maybe you're not going to jive with it, or you really will. Now, I like it. I really jive with it. It's like, it's really wonderful. He's a great writer. I think he's fantastic. But sometimes it's just like a little off-putting, something's just a little off to make you feel a little uncomfortable while reading. I think it's particularly the way that he writes his characters, and I feel that here in Childgrave too, particularly with the little girl in here. What was her name? Joanne, I think it was her name. And because sometimes she speaks not like a 5-year-old, and she she was a strange little girl. But I liked this book, but it was a slow burn. It's a slow one. It really kind of builds you up as you're following this man. Like I said, as he's really trying to pursue this woman and trying to find her and all this kind of good stuff. And as he's sort of slowly kind of peeling back the layers of Childgrave and then what that means, right? But the ending third to a quarter of this book, y'all, it is so good. It is worth the payoff. Get to the end because it is so good. It went to some places that I was not quite expecting. I was thinking okay, this thing, and I was right about this thing, but I wasn't right about this other thing, and I was like, whoa. And then this character, you hate this man, or actually he's not a good person, he's not a good father, and he makes some decisions where you're like, WTF, sir, what are you doing? And he makes this decision, and you're like, why are you doing this? So it's so good. It's just really good. Just give it a go and just see if the writing style is for you. Just know you gotta kind of be a little patient with the story as it's building up, because the ending is worth it for sure. So yes, it's good. Okay, so next I read These Violent Delights by Micah Nemerever. I loved this book. Let me say it again. I loved this book. This was so good to me. Anyway, so this is the book club pick for the Dark Hearts book club, which of course is run by Amy Noel Reeds. I'll link her channel below, of course. I'm sure you're already watching her, but just in case, she's fantastic. And this book was fantastic also. So we are set in 1970s New York, not New York. The other one was in New York. This is 1970s. I think it was Pittsburgh, here in the States. And we're following this young man. His name's Paul, and he is a college student. But he lives at home because he's, a local kid. So he lives with his mom and his sister. And we, find out pretty early on that his dad has, sorry, weird here. His dad has passed away. And so he's going to college. He's a really super smart kid. He's one of those that kind of left high school early to kind of go to college, and he's just whip smart, super smart. And but he's also kind of really awkward and he's dealing with some things, right? So Paul, as he's going to school, he meets a guy named Julian, who's also this really super smart guy, but they seem like polar opposites. Paul is kind of, blue collar, lower class kind of guy. Julian is like rich kid, right? Trust fund, the whole thing, that whole thing. I mean, his name's Julian, for Pete's sake, right? And they soon, form this friendship. They have a lot in common because they're just super smart, and they like to talk about things like philosophy and chess and all kinds of stuff. And they form this friendship, and this friendship really kind of turns into a relationship, and this relationship soon spirals into something totally different, and it goes to some dark places, I will say, and some decisions were made. And what we see with Paul is he's struggling. Like he's got some things going on here, particularly he's prone to violence. He's dealing with anger issues for sure. It really deals with some things that we find out about his father, and surrounded his father's death. And it's 1970s here in the U.S., right? So people aren't necessarily accepting of a young man being gay, right? And so there's several mentions of from his mom and his grandparents and his family and things about how they just wanted him to be normal and all this kind of stuff. So he's dealing with that, of course, too. I mean, when you live like a closeted life, essentially, when you're not allowed to really be your true self, it can be hard, right? I really loved this sort of intersection and this play with like sex and violence and how those things cross over, and in this relationship with Julian and Paul, this kind of this pull and tug of like love and hate. I loved that exploration of this in this book. To me, it was just fantastic. And like I said, it went to some dark places here, and I absolutely loved it. I thought this was so well written. I think this was Micah's first book. Yeah, this was amazing. I just flipping loved this book, and whatever this dude comes out with next, I'm gonna jump right on it because flip of the week. I loved this book. I thought it was so good. So if you like, kind of really just digging into characters and like motivations, and like I said, this sort of push and pull of love and hate, dealing with sexuality at this time, at this age too, kind of young men. Man, it was just fantastic. It was just fantastic. So yeah, 5 stars from me. Next up, I pulled up another audiobook. I did the audiobook for these Violent Delights too, and it was so well done. It was fantastic. So next I did another audiobook for Creatures of Passage by Morowa Yejide. I practiced that so many times and I still messed it up. And I love this one too. I love this book. Okay, this is a weird one. This is a bit strange, but this is so good. Okay. I'm excited to talk about this one. I don't want to read it again because I love this one. Okay. So again, we're to take place in the 1970s, which is interesting. So here in the U.S., this takes place around the sort of like D.C. area, 1970s, but it is like not the 1970s or not the D.C. area that like we know today. This world is set up so differently. It's almost like each state is a kingdom. So it'll be like we're in the kingdom of Virginia, and then they live in like the Alexandria area, so like the county, and so each county is like a fiefdom. The kingdom of Virginia and the fiefdom of Alexandria, and it'll mention like this guy's from the kingdom of Michigan, and I don't know, like it's almost like this sort of alternate history or a multiverse, like an alternate timeline of how this how U.S. or whatever is works, or whatever. And then sort of like so Alexandria, where she is also set up into these quadrants, so like southeast and southwest and northwest quadrants, and and everyone kind of sticks into their little area, you know. Yeah. So that's how the world is set up. It's super interesting. And we're following this kind of our main character is named Nephthys, and she's sort of an older woman, and she's really cool, but she's troubled. We find out that she was a twin, and it's so cool because when they were born, like they were conjoined at like the finger, and so they each basically don't have the tip of their whatever finger it was, and because they were separated at birth, and so her brother has, but her brother we find out her brother was murdered, and so soon after she just like went into despair. She's drinks a lot, is sad, depressed. I mean, she's not doing well. But she also drives this haunted car, and there's a dead white girl in the trunk because she was murdered in the car, and she just stays in the trunk. And this car never needs gas, never needs maintenance. It just always runs. And Nephthys basically is kind of like a ferryman in a way. She takes people, gives people passage to make sure they get to where they're going safely. This world isn't, it's not that it's totally like uber violent, but it's not always safe for people. I'd say especially for African American, Black American people. And so she offers offers safety, right? People pay what they can, that kind of thing. And so like that's sort of this calling that she does now. So what is the story about? Well, it's not really about anything necessarily. This is really more of a kind of study with these characters and how they interact with this world, how it's set up. Like I said, these kingdoms and fiefdoms and these quadrants and all this kind of good stuff. Racism is very still much alive. We as we learn through like sort of stories that are being told around, what happened in the neighborhood in the past, that kind of thing. And like I said, people are struggling to kind of make ends meet, and there's violent situations, all that kind of good stuff. Not good stuff, all that kind of stuff. But we meet other characters here and there. Nephthys has this her niece, which she has powers to. She has these dreams where she sees people's deaths, and she also has a young son who's like a 10-year-old named Dash, and he kind of sees this man in the river that he calls the River Man. It's a thing, right? And so, but basically, the Amber, who is the niece that has these dreams of people's death, sees something about her son. And so it kind of spirals into this, like Nephthys is trying to figure out what's going on so she can save Dash because she wasn't able to save her brother, right? Or, oh my God, my son outside the door. So like I said, you're trying to save the kid. I mean, that's kind of the central sort of, I guess, a plot of this story. But this story isn't really plot heavy. It is, like I said, more just digging into these characters and how they kind of move throughout this world, and there's other characters that we meet along the way that are just so super interesting, really layered, and really well fleshed out. And I loved this. There's bits of magical realism. There's some fantastical qualities about this story that is just excellent. It's beautifully written. I mean, gorgeous writing. It's top notch. I loved this book. So if you're looking for something just that's really different, really beautiful, but it's pretty dark also, I will say, in some places. Just a content warning, there is some child like sexual abuse in here, but it's just absolutely wonderful. It's absolutely wonderful. You gotta read it. And the audiobook was fantastic. It was narrated by the author, which sometimes can be a little hit or miss, but she was excellent. It was excellent. I loved it. 5 stars from me. I loved it. All right, next up, I did finish Such Sharp Teeth by Rachel Harrison, and I really enjoyed this too. I had a great week. Yes, I really liked this one a whole lot. I have a heck of a lot of fun with this one. Excuse me. So we're following, because we're a young woman who has come home. I think I've mentioned on here a few times that I love that trope. Someone who has to like come home, but she's come home because her twin sister, and another story with a twin, interesting. Her twin sister is pregnant, and she's just like, can you just come home, help stay with me for a little while. But this woman, what's her name? Rory. How could I forget? She has like left this small town. She's living in New York City, has a good job and living the life, right? But she goes back home, takes some time off of work and goes back home, and she's like, because of course. So, and lo and behold, when she is there, right there in the beginning of the book, it starts right off with a bang. She's like driving home in the dark, and she thinks she's run over something, and lo and behold, it's a werewolf, and she gets attacked in the woods, and then she soon discovers that, yeah, she's a werewolf too. I don't think this is a spoiler because there's a werewolf moon on the cover, and it does say a werewolf novel. Okay, so now she's like, WTF, what am I going to do now? So she's figuring out, what happens now? Werewolf, what does that even mean? Meanwhile, her sister's like, getting closer and closer to her due date. She's reconnected with like an old friend, like old guy friend from high school and stuff, and they're like maybe trying to get together. So there is like a love component, like a love relationship or romance, I guess is the word I'm looking for. Romance edge to the story, which I think some people will either love or hate. Some people just don't like romance in their books. It's not like super heavy, but it's in there. And then we learn about Rory and sort of some troubled things that she has in the past, some trauma that she's dealing with. She's had a really rocky relationship with her mom. All this kind of stuff is throughout here, and it was clever. It's funny in places. Rory is a really kind of a smart ass kind of character, so I just she's really funny, and I just had a heck of a lot of fun with this. And what I really loved about this was this this kind of metaphor of the werewolf for like women's rage, women's anger. Women are always told not to be angry. Can't be angry because you're not pretty when you look angry, or you just look crazy when you're angry, and all that kind of good stuff. We're told, women are told to just sit there and be quiet and passive, but we have feelings too, and sometimes those feelings are anger, and we should be allowed to express that as well. And there's also this sort of parallel, but I think between Rory and her sister Scarlett, because there's Scarlett is also having a transformation with her body, being pregnant, and this sort of loss, essentially of body, not autonomy, but loss of what's going on with your body, being pregnant, it happens, right? You can't control what's going on, right? These transformation that's happening inside of you, and same with Rory, as she's trying to control, when she's changing into the werewolf, but it's something that's really beyond her control. This link with the moon, of course, I thought was really is of course spot on with with females, also with women, and cycles, all that kind of stuff. All of that is in here, and I think you can definitely deep dive into that stuff if you want to, because it's there, or at the surface, it's just a really fun werewolf story too. And I enjoyed the heck out of this. I really had a fun time with it. I really liked the werewolf transformations, how they were described. Like, you could really visualize it if you're a visual reader. Rory was talking about what's happening to her, like, oh, my teeth are falling out and the new one's growing in, and all this kind of stuff. Like, the descriptions of the transformation I thought were excellent. Really good kind of gory stuff. So yeah, I had a really fun time with this one. I'm not gonna, I think men can enjoy this story, but I think women will really connect with this one, I think, a bit more. I think just because of those themes that are in here with body and all that kind of good stuff. And I thought it was excellent. I had a really, really good time with this one. So this was another book club pick for Brad Proctor's Spinebreakers book club. And so we're having fun with that chatting over there. But yeah, I enjoyed the heck out of this. I had a really fun time with it. I liked this a whole heck of a lot. And I finally read Rachel Harrison, so I do have The Return on my shelf, so it makes me definitely want to get to that one now. Yeah. Excellent. I really like this one a lot. Okay, next up, so it was Friday, and I had finished my last audiobook, and I was like, well, and I caught up on YouTube that I was wanting to watch. And so I was like, let me find maybe something kind of short I can listen to. So I was just scrolling through stuff that I had saved, and I saw this one. I was like, oh, it was like 4-ish hours. I was like, this would be perfect, get me kind of through half of the day, and at work on a slow Fridays, Anyway, so I pulled up The Seep by Hannah Porter. Okay, I like this one too. Yeah, you guessed it. I really... So this was a weird one, you guys. This is a weird one. Everyone is not going to like this book. I'm just going to say that right now. But I really kind of liked it. So The Seep, what is The Seep about? Well, I'm glad you asked. The Seep is an alien race, essentially. And they come down to Earth, and they just, kind of invade. But it's what they call a soft invasion. There's no violence here. There's no guns drawn. There's no war between, humans and the Seep. The Seep, they just permeate themselves into, basically, permeate themselves. Is that even a word? I don't know. They, just kind of make themselves at home. Now the Seep, they don't have like bodies. They're like basically just like a, I don't know, like a vapor, like a bodiless form, and like I said, they soon permeate everything, and it's interesting. They come into humanity. They take away things like debt, and you don't have to worry about anything anymore. Humanity doesn't have to worry about anything anymore. The Seep has made everything perfect. You can alter your body now because they can get to you at a cellular level. Would you like to have wings now? Oh, we can do that for you. Would you like to have there's mention of someone having like a cat tongue? We can do that for you now. All kinds of things. People don't really need to work. They can be productive in different ways, but it's more just about enjoying life. Look how awesome we have made Earth now, And so our main character that we're following, her name is Chana. And Trina's a trans woman, and she is in a relationship here in the beginning of the story. And what was her name? Deba, I think was her wife's name. And the Seep has taken hold, and they're living their lives with the Seep. The Seep is also like a drug, where people like take in the Seep, ingest the Seep in different ways to like have experiences. It's strange, you guys, but what happens here kind of right towards the beginning of the story is that Deba, who was Trina's wife, decides that she wants to be reborn, and this is what happens here. So if you decide you want to be reborn, the Seep, like, you basically will like die off, and then you're like reconstructed as like an infant. And so Deba makes this decision, and Trina's like, what the fuck? Basically, like, what? We're in this relationship, like you're just gonna leave me, right? So Trina is like, now all of a sudden she's alone, and she's questioning like, what has the Seep done to us, essentially, and so she's starts dealing with depression, and she kind of goes on little trips to try to figure things out, kind of thing, questioning things. We do learn there's this place called the commune, which are humans that live without the Seep's influence, because there are some people who are resistant, it's the whole thing. But this was just so interesting to me. This whole book was just super interesting. So, of course there's, commentary like, what does it mean to be a human? Like if you alter yourself too much, are you really a human anymore? And then of course love and loss and grief and sadness, and just making your way through a world, being different. One, in particular, there was this, and Trina said, because the Seep are like trying to help her deal with her grief, in the form of this talking pamphlet is a thing, yeah. But they're like, we can help you. We can like come and help you. We can turn you into something else. We can make you happy. Let us help you. Let us help you. And then Chana's like, gosh, you know what? Before you guys came here, I already altered my body, and in a different way, in a more meaningful way. When I, as a trans woman, I made that alteration already. Why do I want to change again? So it is very bizarre, I will say. So if you like weird, basically weird, weird science fiction stories, you may really like this one. It's not going to be for everyone because it is just super weird, and it's not necessarily like a plot, it's really just more about this character. But I liked it. I just thought it was my kind of weird. I love a good weird book, and this was my kind of weird. I really liked this one. I liked the ideas that were going on in here. I like this idea of the Seep, being this just sort of, I don't know, almost like a vapor, like just sort of altering everything. I mean, even the architecture and the grass and the earth, everything. There's this one character who was a bear, but now he's a talking bear, and like, he like works at the bar because he's been altered by the Seep, and I don't know. And he was like, they say this one line was kind of like, the Seep came along and gave me, all this stuff, but like I didn't really want it. I was cool just being a bear, I don't know. It is cool. If you like weird, check it out. Save stuff here. It is really short. I think the author definitely packs a lot into this, and like novella, I guess it probably is. I enjoyed it. I thought it was really cool, and so yeah, I liked it. All right, so I think I've blabbered on enough, but let's talk a little bit about what I'm in progress on. So I've read some more of Served Cold. And I'm still really liking this collection. I'm trying to think, where did I think I talked about that one. So did I talk about Isolation? About the man trapped in his car. Isolation by N.M. Brown. A man trapped in his car after an avalanche. That has a really good ending on that one. Sweep in the Side Street by A.B. Frank. Really like this one. So basically these orphan street kids, and one's a chimney sweep, but one boy finds something sinister in a chimney, and we find out what's going on with that. That one was super interesting. Frostbite by Alfie Tobit. Is it Tobit? They're men trying to make it back to like a base camp thing in Antarctica. I put things not going well. Yeah, a lot of frozen things, right? Blackwood by Marie McWilliams. Oh, I liked this one a lot. There's a darkness in Blackwood. There's a sheriff and others are going into the woods to look for missing people, and they find what's in the woods. That one was excellent. Cold Crossing by Jacob Payton. Oh, I love this one too. So there's a legend called the Three Sisters. So two boys, they canoe out to see if they can find these sisters, so that they can ask a question about a missing friend, and they're not gonna like the answer that they get from these three sisters. Oh, that one was excellent. It was so good. It was so good. So yeah, I'm really just digging this collection. I'm about halfway through, so I'll keep plugging away to the end of the month. Yeah, really digging that one. Other than that, let's see, I have not made any more progress in Audrey Rose. I don't know that I'm feeling that one. We'll see. I did make a teensy start on Goosebumps, the Abominable Snowman of Pasadena. This is, of course, for the Scary Sleepover weekend that's going on this weekend. I read just a few chapters, and then I was tired last night, so I went to bed. But yeah, so I got the weekend. I got 3-day weekend because of the holidays, so I'm super excited about that. If I get some good reading time in. And I think that's it. This was a long one, sorry. But yeah, that's it. So I had an excellent week. I read some really super interesting, thought-provoking books this week. I'm very happy. So let me know what you read this week. I'd love to know. Have you read any of these? Let me know, have you read The Seep? Let me know that, of course, also. So I'm going to leave it here, guys. Thanks so much for watching. Like always, I appreciate your time. I so appreciate it. And till next time. Bye.